The Dale Show! Hello, sports fans, and welcome to The Dale Show Sports, Episode 2, but overall Episode 29 of The Dale Show. Still not back to conspiracies and whatnot. I want to finish off my NHL preview where I go through the Eastern Conference and tell you which players I think will do better this season than last season, which players will do worse, and the biggest addition to that each team made during the offseason. And if you watched episode 1, I'm going to try to not say next up before every team. I noticed I was doing that when I was editing the podcast, and it annoyed me. So it probably annoyed you, the listener, because you're not in love with your voice like or my voice. Because it's almost weird, because to make a podcast, you kind of have to love your own voice. Otherwise, it's impossible to edit. Like, when I make my podcast and I listen to it, I have to be able to be like, I sound all right there, or I sound bad there. But if you got to get over that whole, I hate the way my voice sounds, because we all feel like that the first couple times we hear it recorded. And even if I don't do a podcast for a while and then I go back and like record one and then I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I mean, the best way to get around this was if I had a producer who would just edit these for me, and that would be glorious, because editing sucks. I'm just going to admit it. Like, I'm a one-man show here. Well, Jeff usually co-hosts with me, so it's kind of two, but I do all the, like, editing and putting in the like, sweet 3D graphic thing I found for the names, and I do that all myself, and it's, I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't know if I say I hate it, because it's still making the podcast, which I love. So it's a piece of what I love, but of what I love, it's my least favorite piece. Let's say that. And the worst part is when I do this by myself, every time I take a drink, I have to go back and edit that all out. It sounds weird, but one of the main reasons I like doing these with two people is so I don't have to edit when I drink. Because I drink a lot. Like, not like drinks. Like, these are alcohol-free beers because I'm a fat wiener. I don't know. Every time I say pussy, my co-hosts give me trouble. So I feel like I'm not supposed to say pussy anymore. But it's one of those words nothing suits as nice as, I don't even want to say poignant, because you can't really say the word pussy is poignant, but it feels poignant because when you say it, people know exactly what you mean. And it's almost like the expression of that word has evolved to mean a certain very specific thing. And there's nothing that's come along to replace it. Like, because you want to say wiener, which is a good start, and then you want to say lame or dorky, so it's like a mixture of wiener, lame, dork, weak. It's a mixture of all this. It's like a word that has like 5 compound meanings, so it just means so much, so it's so hard to give up. But anyways, I'm gonna stop whining about why I should be able to use that word. So last week I did the Western Conference. This week I'm doing the Eastern Conference, which is weird because it's like, I feel like I don't know the Eastern Conference as good as I do the Western Conference, because I've been paying more attention to the Western Conference, because, like I said last week, my favorite team is the Oilers. My old favorite team was the Canucks. I switched. I'm a bandwagon guy. What are you going to do? You can't do nothing, because I'm allowed to like who I like, and you're allowed to like who you like. So don't worry. Jump bandwagons. Oh, and I also mentioned I'm picking a favorite team from each conference this year. So in the Pacific, I have the Oilers. In the Central, I'm going to go with the Yotes, because, I don't know, I just love an underdog. And in the Atlantic, I got to go with Buffalo for no better reason than I have Tage Thompson in my fantasy hockey pool, and he killed it the last couple of years. This year, he's off to a slow start. It's tough to say. I would say I like Detroit because debrincat's there, because he's a guy I've had on my fantasy teams in the past, and he always delivers. And right now, he's leading the whole league in points. He's got 12 points. Here, I'm going to pull up that window so I can tell you exactly. He's got 12 points in 6 games. He has 8 goals in 6 games. He might have the most goals in the league right now. Just let me click on this. Yeah, he does. He has Alex debrincat has the most goals in the league. He has played 6 games and like Jack Hughes has only played 4 and Tavares has only played 5. Oh, but Tavares only has 2 goals. My boy Leon Draisaitl's only played 5 games and he's got 4 goals. Anyways, I digress. debrincat, apparently a change of view, getting top line minutes, top PP1 minutes is doing good for him. I guess asking to be let out of Ottawa is good. You know what's funny? He's not even my guy who's going to do better this year. Oh, I have to digress something. I made this list almost a month ago. I was like, I've been working on it for like a month and a half. So if my picks look stupid after the first 2 weeks of hockey, after the first 6 games, I'm sorry. I wanted to stick with my original picks. I wanted to be honest about it. I didn't want to just go, hey, go back and edit them to make it look like I'm smarter than I am. Like, I didn't want to go and change it so debrincat was my pick for Detroit, even though I should have guessed. But I didn't pick him. Anyways, I'm going to start. I feel like that's enough preamble. Is that enough preamble? Enough pre-ramble? More like it. Cause get it? Because I ramble so much. Okay, anyways. Let's start off at the Atlantic Division with Boston. Up, I'm going to say Marchand. Marchand? Ugh. It's so hard because like in Canada, we always have like the French version just nipping in our ear because we're a bilingual country. Anyways, Marchand. I know some people say Marchand. Wow. I don't know why I can't remember how to say this guy's name. I feel so dumb right now. Anyways, he's the guy who's going to improve the most on the Boston Bruins this year because last year was the first time he was less than a point per game since 2015 and 16. And down, I'm going to say Pasternak because last year he had 113 points, which is pretty bonkers, but he was also a plus 34, which is godlike. And even though Boston's undefeated and they're 4-for-4 this year so far, I was going to be like, they lost too many pieces to be good again this year, but I guess my old picks that I picked a month ago are just showing up. They just aged like milk. But anyways, I don't think Pasternak can get 113 points and be plus 34. Maybe he can do one or the other. Maybe he'll do less, like a little bit less in both categories. I don't think he's going to throw up a dog shit year. I just think he's going to be less. And the biggest additions that they made in the offseason, I'm going to say Lucic, Shattenkirk, and Van Riemsdyk, because they're all in their mid-30s and they're all working on a year contract for $1 million. So it's hard to pick which one of those 3, but those are really the only names they added. If I had to pick, if you had to twist my rubber arm, I'm going to say the biggest addition would be Lucic, pun intended, because he's huge and he can throw fisties. And I don't know, Lucic is one of those guys where you feel like he's a scumbag player and you should hate him, but you just appreciate him because he's like one of those grinders. And I don't know, as much, I just could never hate him. He's just old school hockey, and I don't know what happened to his neck. He actually has some genetic disorder where his neck shrinks, and I can't remember, or it's not shrinks, it just curves like this. So it's like his neck here, it goes in and then up. So his head is like forward and up. And it's weird because you figure if you have like some genetic like neck disforming disorder, you figure the last thing you'd want to do is be a fighter in a hockey league. But I mean, he's keeping it together so far. Moving right, I almost said next up Buffalo. Right after I said I wouldn't say it, I was just like caught myself. But I'm gonna say, moving right along to Buffalo. Up, I'm gonna say their goalie Levi, or is it Levy? I've heard both pronunciations. My brother's name is spelt my brother's first name is Levi, and it's spelt the same, and it's a biblical name, so I'm just gonna say Levi. If I'm wrong, sue me. The guy he's played like what? 9 NHL games so far, whatever. But how bad does Florida feel for losing this guy? Anyways, he's going to be the next Shesterkin. He's only played, what did I say? He only played 7 games last year after his college season ended. But I think I was going to say he was going to be at least the backup instead of playing a season in the AHL. But I think we might be seeing a guy go straight from college to starting goalie, which is absolutely bonkers for goalies because usually they take a year or two to season. They don't want to rush their development because their little leggies bend too far and it hurts their. I don't know much about goalies, but I always know that they always leave them in the AHL for a couple seasons, and then you're always like, where's that guy? Where's he coming? I want to see him play, but he's had all right numbers. He's actually injured right now. I have him on my fantasy team, so I've been paying attention. He's injured, so I guess that's to the point of not rushing these guys to NHL games because their body can't hold up. Down, I'm going to say Skinner. Last year was a one-off, and he'll be back to his normal points. He was pretty good last year, but, you know. And the biggest addition that Buffalo made is, I guess, Clifton. 3 years at 3.33 per. I mean, I'm not familiar with this player, but 3.33's got to mean something. Like he's got to make a little bit of a dent. I don't know. Previously mentioned Detroit. And up, if I was smart, I would have said debrincat because everybody saw it coming. He left Ottawa. He went to Detroit. He's on first line. He's getting PP1 minutes. But nope. I'm going to say Raymond. He had a really good rookie year. Last year in his sophomore, he had a little bit of a slump. And he is on the top line with Larkin and debrincat with PP1 minutes. And maybe he'll get all us fantasy owners to forget how terrible he did last year. It's funny because I had Raymond, who's on the top line getting PP1 minutes, and debrincat was right there. Anyways, down, I'm going to say Perron, but not much. Last season, he had 56 points, 52 penalty minutes. I just think they'll flip. He'll get a little bit less points, a little more penalty minutes. I mean, depending how you look at it, I guess that's down. So, yeah, that's it. The biggest addition, obviously, debrincat. He's the top guy in Detroit now. He's leading the league with 12 points. And I think this year will be the first time he gets 50 goals. Yeah. This guy, debrincat, hasn't even scored 50 goals yet in his career. And he's already at 8 goals in 6 games. He's going to get 50 goals. And what if he gets it in 50? Oh, my God. Could you imagine if debrincat was the first guy to get 50 goals in 50 games since, like, who was the last guy to do it? Oh, it was in the 90s. There was a guy who did it. Why can't I remember this name? Anyways, he did it, but it didn't count because he got 50 goals in 50 games, but he was injured and he missed the first like 5 or 6 games of the season. So they don't count it because it's the 50 goals in 50 games is 50 goals in your team playing 50 games, which is stupid. It should just be 50 goals in 50 games that you play. And Did I maybe curse debrincat from getting 50 goals in 50 games? Maybe. I mean, it would have been. Oh, man, McDavid didn't even do it last year. Could you imagine if debrincat gets 50 goals in 50 games? I might have to stop cheering for Buffalo and I will cheer for Detroit because I am a wagon jumper and they will have earned my fanship. Plus, I really like debrincat anyway. Like, every time a player does really good on my fantasy team, I debate getting a knockoff jersey from China because I'm poor. I can't afford $250 for a jersey. But I contemplate getting like a $40 knockoff one from DH Gate. I did one year with Bailey off the Islanders. He's not even in the league anymore. And then I was actually going to get one. Funny story. I was going to get one from debrincat when he was still on the Blackhawks, but I asked my girlfriend who has First Nations. She's partly First Nations, and I was like, would it offend you if I had a Blackhawks jersey with like the First Nations guy's face? And she said, yeah. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to do it. And then when he went to Ottawa, I was like, oh, I could get a jersey now. And I was like, Ottawa kind of sucks. And debrincat sucked on Ottawa. And Detroit is a big D. Dale starts with a D. Okay, if debrincat gets 50 goals in 50 games, not only will I change my allegiance to Detroit from Buffalo, the Detroit will be my Eastern team, and no, they can't win me from the Oilers, but I will get a debrincat Detroit jersey. I'll try to get one with a D on it. Yeah, that'd be dope. Let's go down south to Florida. Barkov is the guy who I think is going to be moving up this year. He's going to reassert himself after Tkachuk came in like a bright shining star. I think Barkov has been out of the spotlight, and this might be a year where he wins it back. Down, I'm going to say Bobrovsky. Last season, he had a time machine, and he went back he looked 10 years younger. But this year, I think it's going to be like that Dorian Gray, where he didn't age, but that photo or that painting in his attic aged, and then someone like found it and they went nuts. I think Bobrovsky this year is going to be the painting and not Dorian Gray. And especially because he still has a broken heart from losing in the finals after he put on a clinic in the playoffs, but I think that was just a bit too much. And the biggest acquisition is Casey Fitzgerald, because Gerald fits Casey. I know. This is a terrible joke, but I got nothing. Panthers got nobody, so I had to resort to that terrible joke. Montreal. My guy going up is Caulfield. I don't know why I said Caulfield. Let's see how many points he has. I think I saw that he had scored a bunch. Oh, man. Looking through the list, it's going to take a bit. Sorry, this was a bad idea. He's not in the top 30, and there's no search. Let's just... You know what? I'm going to search it up in my fantasy app because I can do that way quicker. And then doing it online, I just go to players. Oh my God. Caulfield. There we go. Colton Caulfield stats. Oh, he only has 5 points this season. All right. 3 goals and 2 apples. So what was my prediction? My prediction was last year he had 26 goals in 46 games because he was injured. So he only played just over half a year. So this season, I think he's going to get over 40 goals, which is not that wild of a prediction. So that's a pretty safe one. So there you go. A nice, mild 40-goal season from Caulfield. Down, no one's going to play worse on this team than last year because, like Calgary, everybody was terrible last year. And if anybody plays even terribler this year, they shouldn't be in the NHL because last year, the team was dog shit. I can't even believe this is the same team that made the finals. 3 years ago? Ooh, that was terrible. They lose to Tampa? No, they would have. Yeah, I think they lost to Tampa. That loss was so bad it ended Carey Price's career. The biggest acquisition for Montreal is Newhook. He's going to put the 14 points that he made last year to good use. Going to Ottawa now. That team I said, I've never hated Ottawa, but they're one of those teams that are just like, even that one year, like forever ago when they're doing good, it's just like, you don't want to cheer for them because you're just like, blah. It's just like, I don't know, you don't hate them, but you never like them. They're always in the middle. They're like Minnesota Wild. It's just like, you can never hate them because there's no reason to hate them, but you just don't get excited for them. But anyways, up I have Stutzle. Sorry, that's one of those dumb names that you say all weird. Him and Brady Tkachuk are the two bright stars of Ottawa, and I think Stutzle's going to get over 100 points this year. I shouldn't have said that. I was going to say he got pretty close last year, but I don't even know what he got last year. I know he did good. I have him in one of my fantasy pools, so that's good. Boy. All right. You know what? You can look it up if you want to know how many points. It's too much to like Google how many points a guy has and then go to last year because I can't look in my fantasy app. So that's the fastest way. But anyways, down I'm going to say korpisalo. He had a 9.914 save percentage last year with the crappy Los Angeles Kings. And Ottawa is so much worse than Los Angeles, so his save percentage is definitely going to suffer. The biggest acquisition, they had made so many free agencies or so many they made so many acquisitions. They ran the fantasy or the free agency pool dry. I think they had 10 grabs, like they grabbed 10 people, 10 players or something. They counted before. But yeah. So I'm gonna have to say korpisalo again because he's the only name of those 10 that I could really point. That really sticks out. Next up, see, I could say it because I only said it once this time. I didn't say it for every team. Like, okay, sorry. I'm getting all up in my head about this. I'm getting all meta on the podcast, and I'm noticing things that hopefully you guys didn't notice and get annoyed by. Tampa. Rampa Tampa. Up, I'm going to say Jeannot. After getting just 4 points in the 20 games since they traded for him, he's going to have to make that boatload they paid for him seem worth it. They had picks 1 to 5 in different years. Cal Foot, the guy going the other way with those picks, got 4 points in 23 games, and he even started the season in the AHL. So, whatever. Down, I'm going to say Kucherov. He had 113 points last year. He'll get just as much as if he stays healthy, but he won't. And the biggest acquisition is Connor Sheary. Last year, he played all 82 games, which will be more than Vasilevsky, which doesn't really have any pertaining to anything that I just want to say. Vasilevsky's injured. And Tampa Bay is nothing without Vats. Well, I guess they are something, but he's the best goalie in the league, and to lose him will hurt Tampa. And I just want to deflect because Connor McDavid is currently injured. He's going to miss the next 5 games. So I guess that's what I get for making fun of a team losing their best player is my team loses their best player, and I get to eat humble pie. Let's head over to Toronto to see the team with the worst fans in the league. Sorry, guys, you're obnoxious. My good friend Marty, he's a super huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and he's tolerable, but if he talks about the Leafs too much, plus he gets to dig on me because the Oilers started this season virgin terrible, so that hurts. And my player who's going to go up this year is Matthews. The year before last, he won the Hart. He had 60 goals. Last year, he had 40 goals. This year, in 2 games, he had 6. He hasn't scored again since, but I feel like he's going to be up around 60 goals again. Down, I'm going to say Marner or Nylander. I feel like one of them is going to get traded. I don't know what cap magic they did, because when I took these notes, the Leafs were $3 million over the cap, and they didn't really make too many moves. So I guess if their cap space ninjery can't continue, they're going to have to get rid of either Marner or Nylander. And I think knowing that might affect them, so they might do worse. And if one of them gets traded, I think it will affect their... Well, actually, I don't even know if... Okay. Of this totally made-up list that I made where I say who's going to do better or worse for each team, if they get traded and they do worse later, does that still count as my prediction? Because technically they're on a different team, so they're not doing... Well, you know what? I'm just going to say it. Of Marner and Nylander, I feel like one of them will get traded. Whichever one gets traded will do worse. And the biggest acquisition that Toronto made was their cap. I don't know how a team near the cap last year picked up Reeves, Klingberg, Bertuzzi, Domi. They were 13.25 over the cap, but 10.3 of that is used up in long-term injury reserve. So I got to hand it to the cap guys in Toronto. Their bean counters are counting beans. Their bean counters are counting beans. That's the best thing you can say about Toronto. And the last division is the Metropolitan Division. Did I say who I was going to cheer for in this division? No, I didn't. I got distracted. I said I was going to cheer for Buffalo. So you know what? I'm cheering for in the Atlantic Division. I'm cheering for Buffalo. Could change to Detroit depending on how good debrincat does. And in the Metropolitan, this is probably my least favorite division. Not like my least favorite, but it's got so many ho-hum teams. I mean, it's got Pittsburgh and Washington, so you figure I would love it because it's got Crosby and Ovechkin, but it's not 10 years ago, so I don't really care. Philly's kind of, they're one of my favorite teams from when I was a kid because of Hextall and stuff, but they're mid for the last decade. New York Rangers I've never really cared about, although, New York Islanders, Horvat went there, nah. Yeah, Columbus, New Jersey. Let's go with Carolina. I like how they were doing the storm surge. I mean, at the beginning of this year, Money Puck had them and the Oilers as the highest odds to win the cup, and then we could have a sweet 2005 rematch, blood feud, where the Oilers don't lose Rolison, but they don't have a goalie to lose in the final, so I don't even know if they'll make it there. But I'm going to go with Carolina. And I think the player who's going to do the best on Carolina is Aho. He had 67 points in 75 games. He's been a star for years, but now I feel like that he's got that 9.75 fat bag for 8 years. I feel like he's going to take that step and become a superstar. Is he going to get 100 points? I doubt it. Going from 75 to 100 is a big leap, even though he'll have 15 more games to do it. I don't know. Let's say he's going to be around 90 points. That's what I'll say. Down, I'm going to say Anderson. I thought this guy was like 100, but he's only 34, which I guess is kind of old for a goalie. Probably got him confused with Anderson instead of Anderson, because Anderson was the guy on Buffalo, and Anderson is the guy who used to play for Toronto. And Anderson retired this year, so I'm super pumped because now I don't have to fucking get them confused and try to remember which one is which. But last year, Anderson got 903 save percentage, but Ranta had 9.10. this might finally be the year that Ranta's wheels don't fall off and he ends up stealing starts back from Anderson. So I feel like Anderson is going to go down, not like his save percentage, but his starts. So it'll be like he'll play less games. I mean, that's if Ranta stays healthy. And has Ranta ever stayed healthy? Like, Ranta was one of those guys who's like supposed to be like maybe top 15 starters, but then he's never been healthy enough long enough to be a starter. And the biggest acquisition by the Hurricanes is DeAngelo. Everyone hates this guy, but he keeps finding a team. And this is even his second time for the Canes. They traded him away last year, and then they picked him back up in the offseason. So, like, there's got to be something going on with this guy. Okay, next up. Shit. I did it again. Okay. We're going to talk about Columbus. Sorry I'm doing this to you guys where I'm looking at stuff again, but I'm trying to figure out if Line A is injured. He's on the IR. Okay, so Line A, I had as my guy who was going to be a sneaky, because he's been a sneaky almost points per game, even though he only played 55 games last year. This year it looks like it's not going to be much better because that jerk from Calgary, Anderson, just headhunted him and put him out. He's on LTIR. That's what he's listed as. So I think that means he's going to miss at least 9 games from when they put him on there. So that's anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 weeks of play. So I guess he's technically week to week right now. He's played 4 games, missing 9. That'll be so if he misses 9, that'll be 73. So if he doesn't get injured again, he'll play more than last year. But if he holds up his point per game, we'll see. But he has been underproducing. Down, I'm going to say Jenner. He had 26 goals in 68 games, most on the Columbus team last year. Yeah, that's right. The highest scoring guy on Columbus only had 26 goals, and that's with Gaudreau. That's terrible. And the worst part is, I don't even think Jenner's going to get 26 goals again this year. Sorry, Boone Jenner, even though I love Boone Jenner because I would always say his name, Boone Jenner. And that's because when I worked on the editing desk, not the editing desk, I worked for the Calgary Sun, the paper, and this was the year that Boone Jenner was in the World Juniors, and he would, like, anytime he came up, I would just say Boone Jenner, so he's always stuck in my head. And it's funny because he's not a household name, like he's not a good enough player for everybody to know his name, but I'll never forget it because I kept singing it that whole time I was designing graphics for the World Juniors, so he's just stuck in my brain forever. I mean, that's probably why I even picked him as to be the down guy. Like, would anybody else who's making predictions even have Boone Jenner on their radar to be worse this year? Probably not. And Columbus' best acquisition was probably getting rid of Babcock as the coach before he ever even played a game there, because Babcock is ridiculous. And he was up to his old... I guess if you don't know what happened, so Babcock used to coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I can't remember what happened, but apparently everybody hated him so much that he kind of got soft canceled. And by soft canceled, I mean he's back 4 years later, so obviously he wasn't like canceled. But so he was like he didn't like touch people or anything. It wasn't like a Me Too canceling. It was more like this guy is a gigantic dickhead and he's toxic and he hurts everybody's feelings canceled. So, like, I think what he did in Toronto, this is the rumor, if I have this straight, if I can remember this rumor correctly. So what he did was he went to Marner and he said, "Hey, Marner, make me a list of all the players on your team and tell me everything that you think they're doing badly. And don't worry, I'll keep it a secret. I won't tell anybody. And then he just told everybody what Marner thinks they were doing wrong. And he just caused all this strife in the locker room. And then he like kicked somebody in the back because they didn't listen to him on the bench. So he was like, I guess he got canceled for being physically abusive, but I don't know. Anyways, and then so this year he was meeting up with the Columbus players, and on Spit and Chicklets, there's this guy, Biz Nasty. He's an ex-player for the Arizona Coyotes, and he was saying some of the players texted him and said that Babcock was taking their phone and going through their camera roll to see what kind of person they were, to see, I guess, if they were just loud and obnoxious. And like, it's weird because you're like, why would you look through that, and how would that help you coach them? Which everybody should say, like, hey, why would you need to look at this? How is that going to help you coach people? And then they're just like, and then like the team was just like, all right, we don't fucking need to deal with this. You're gone. So they fired him before he even started. And I guess you could say Biz gets the credit for getting Babcock canceled. Hi, if you're watching this, you've noticed that I'm wearing a different shirt, and the scenery hasn't changed. I'm just in a different spot because what happened was my computer shit the bed. It's entirely my fault. I knew my hard drive was filling up, but I was like, I should be able to record. And it's funny because last time, this is the next day. So I'm recording this second part of the Eastern Conference on Tuesday. Every team in the NHL is playing right now, but I had to get in here to finish this because I got to get this list done before too much of the hockey season goes on, because 2 weeks to do into the season to do previews is too deep. But, anyways, I was saying, it's funny that happened because I stopped recording after I did Columbus. So I did like 37 minutes, and I was like, oh, I better stop recording because I don't want, if something happens, I don't want to lose the whole thing. I just want to lose a chunk. And I guess maybe I jinxed myself, because then I recorded the last 20 minutes, the last of the Eastern Conference. It was probably my magnum opus. I don't know if I'll ever make jokes that funny again. I was talking about how Philadelphia Flyers should have a pumpkin jersey and all that glorious stuff, but we'll see where it goes. I might not even make that pumpkin jersey because I brought it up now, and it'd be awkward if I try to stumble it back in. But I usually like to just play it by ear and go from my notes and then just say what pops into my head. Let's keep this list going. Let's move on to New Jersey. Does anybody else have that thing where you can't say like Boston or New Jersey or certain cities, or like Minnesota? You got to say it in like some accent, which is just my terrible interpretation of what their accent is. So, New Jersey, we'll move there. And for New Jersey, I have the most improved on the team. I'm going to say it's going to be Jack Hughes. And I'm not wrong so far, because Jack Hughes is absolutely killing it this year. He's played, well, I haven't seen what he did tonight, but he's played 4 games previously to Tuesday, October 24th, and he has 4 goals and 6 assists in 4 games. That's nuts. 10 points. So I guess my prediction, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word prediction. That's not good. Maybe I have brain cancer. Anyways, my prediction of Jack Hughes doing well this year is looking to be playing out. And yeah, I mean, does anything look smarter than the Jersey Devils giving him that 8-for-8 contract a couple years ago, with the cap going up and him playing like an absolute superstar? Down this year coming up, I'm going to say Dougie Hamilton. And basically, it's just he had a career year last year, and you can't have a career year every year. And he's a new team. I think he was with Carolina last year. Yeah. And then he got signed by traded to New Jersey. I told you I didn't know the East Coast or the East Conference, and if I was smart, I would have looked up all this stuff. But I also don't want to spend like 3 hours on this super deep explanation of every team or whatever. So let's just, if he's wrong, please correct me. But I think last year Dougie Hamilton played on Carolina, and he had a career year. And this year, I feel like his stats are going to go down. The biggest acquisition by New Jersey Devils was Toffoli from the Flames. He's coming off a career year, another career year. I guess New Jersey's just picking up people so they can have the disappointing slump after their career years. But Toffoli had 73 points last year. It's a pretty good get. The New York Islanders. I'm thinking we're going to have Sorokin in the Vezina conversation this year, especially with Vass missing a big chunk at the beginning of the season. I'm just going to pull up the stats on what Sorokin... This is just going to be me now. I'm just going to say who my predictions were and then go look at the standings and see if my predictions were right. But Sorokin, I got to go shite. I should have done this. I should have looked this up before I was like, I'm going to just look at the stats. It's going to be easy. I'll find the guy right away. Oh, he's 14th. He's played 3 games, and his save percentage is .914, which is pretty good. So, I think he'll get there. Down for the New York Islanders, I'm going to say Nelson. Maybe I'm just bitter because he won the shot accuracy competition last year in the All-Stars, which was ridiculous. I mean, Connor McDavid went 8 for 8, but he just took a little bit longer to aim than Kadri did, and then Kadri put him out, and then Kadri shot the bed, and Nelson beat him. I mean, I guess that's the thrill of competition, is it's not always the best. It's a bit of luck. It's a bit of, what are you doing right now for me? I don't know. That's saying, what have you done for me lately? Well, I guess Brock Nelson, what have you done for me lately? He beat Kadri, who beat Connor McDavid in the accuracy competition. Biggest acquisition for the New York Islanders was a bunch of scrubs, but I guess if I had to pick, I'd say Brian Pino, because 2 years ago, he played 2 NHL games. They haven't really picked up anything else. The New York Rangers. Up and down is kind of, yeah. So, last year's Zibanejad had 91 points. And Panarin had 92 points. So, my bold prediction is those two players are going to get 183 points between them. But Zibanejad is going to eclipse Panarin this year. And I'm going to guess maybe... you know what? Let's do it. Let's say Zibanejad gets 100 points this year and Panarin only gets 82, 83. So let's... Okay. Final prediction is Zibanejad gets 101 points and Panarin gets 82. That would make Zibanejad up and Panarin the downer, because he's going from 92 points to 82. I mean, 82 points is still really good. That's still a point per game if he plays the whole season. But it's less than what he had last year. So that's my caveat. That's how I get out of it. And my biggest acquisition for the New York Rangers was Quick. Originally, I'd predicted that Quick would just be a good mentor for Shesterkin and like talk to him and stuff. But if you go look at the standings right now, Quick is the best player, and he's not the best goalie in the NHL. If you go by just the list of the goaltender stats, he's the best player because he has the lowest goals against average per game, which is 0.7. But he's only played 86 minutes, so I think he started a game and then came in as relief for Shesterkin because he has less than a point a game and doesn't have a shutout. So that's my super smart guy thing. But he's only faced 28 shots, but his save percentage is .964, and that is the highest in the league. And I don't know about you. John Quick was my favorite goalie when he was in his heyday. Right now, I mean, I still really like him. He was coached by Ranford in Los Angeles, so you could see a lot of Ranford's style show through. And Ranford was my boy because I was an Oilers fan as a kid. So I love seeing Quick at the top of the goalie stats. Maybe it's only because it's the beginning of the year and we're only 2 weeks in and they haven't had enough time. He hasn't had enough ice time for his stats to get fully bungled up by him letting in goals and stuff, but he's still the biggest get for the New York Rangers. Let's go to Philly. Philly's a mid team. I don't know. I feel like Philly's always been one of those teams where it's like maybe this year they'll be good, and then they kind of shit the bed, and then I kind of just gave up on them, and I'm like, well, Philly's never terrible. They haven't been terrible for a while because then they haven't got a high enough pick, but they haven't been good. I mean, they might make the playoffs this year, might not. But the biggest gainer for this year, the season coming up, I'm going to say Hart. He had a .907 save percentage last year, which is all right. I mean, in this day and age with goals scoring being so high, any goalie that's over 900 is pretty good. But that's just not the Carter Hart we all fell in love with. And he was Shesterkin before Shesterkin was Shesterkin. He was just some hot young stud goalie who came out of nowhere and everybody became a household name because we were all like, holy shit, this Hart guy. I mean, it might be because my fantasy hockey league is kind of goalie heavy, so they get you more points than the other position. So when someone grabbed Hart off the free agency and he ended up lighting it up in his first year and then made I think it was my brother Levi that looked like the smartest manager in the fantasy hockey league. So we kind of remember that, and he's kind of just been sliding down since then. But I think this year he's going to get it back. Let me see what his stats are right now, 2 weeks into the season. Hey, boy, this is another. I keep doing this. One day, I'm just going to be smart about stuff, and I'm not going to. Oh, he's tied for 10th with Alex Nedeljkovic. I probably shouldn't have even brought that up because I can't say his name. So Carter Hart's played 4 games, has 3 wins, 1 loss. 2.01 goals against average. He's got 105 saves out of 113 shots. That's for .929 save percentage, which is pretty good. And he has a shutout. All right. Looks like my prediction once again is coming true. And I don't know. I don't want to try convince you to believe me that I didn't make these recently, but I did make these before the season started. You don't have to believe me, but I did. I researched it. Anyways, the biggest down, I'm going to say Konechny. The Philly roster got rinsed out. They let go of a lot of guys, and he's kind of the only name I recognize off the team. I'm sure there's some guys on there. I'm sure there's some other players on the Philadelphia Flyers I'd recognize if I did a deep dive onto the team, but there's 32 teams in the NHL, and I can't do a deep dive for these predictions because, like I said the last time I was making excuses for not knowing stuff with New Jersey, that I can't look that deep into it because this podcast would take forever, and I've already had to record it twice. So, Okay, and the biggest acquisition is a list of stuff. So the 2023 first round pick from Columbus and Oliver Bonk. They drafted Oliver Bonk because they made this trade last in the offseason, and they got the trade and they picked up Oliver Bonk during the draft. I should have been able to say that more clearly, but hey, they got the 2024 second round pick from Columbus, 2024 second round pick from LA. They got Helge Grand, they got Cal Peterson, and they got Sean Walker, all from a Provorov trade. Now, do any of those players turn out to be good? Is Oliver Bonk good? Will he be good? I really hope so because Oliver Bonk is a badass name, and I want to say Bonk as much as I can in the coming years. Didn't even end up making a pumpkin jersey joke. Oh, It's past. I can't try to falsely relive what happened the first time I recorded this. So let's just move on to Pittsburgh. Up, I'm going to say Guentzel. He's been hovering around a goal every other game for the last 5 seasons. And this season, I think he's going to figure it out and he's going to get 50 goals. Down, Crosby. This is funny because I'm saying Crosby's going to be down. I'm not going to say Crosby sucks because he's still wicked. And he's going to, like, Crosby on the I'm an old guy and I'm slowing down is he slows down to become closer to a point a game because he's been over a point a game for pretty much his whole career. Also, again, didn't do a deep dive. And him going down to a point per game is a slowdown. And that's wild. But I feel like he's going to slow down. He's going to get to closer point a game. And the Pittsburgh Penguins' biggest acquisition in the offseason was Karlsson. I mean, it's fucking Karlsson, man. Like, San Jose traded so much to get him, and then they did this big 3-way big nuts trade and with Penguins in the offseason. And Karlsson had 100 points last year for a defenseman. That's ridiculous. But I don't think he's going to get 100 points on Pittsburgh this year because I feel like Pittsburgh has more offensive, and it was like on San Jose he kind of got exploited for his offensiveness because they didn't have too many weapons. So this year they might expect him to play a little more defensively, a little less offensively, but he's still the biggest acquisition. He's still Karlsson. He's still going to look good in his goatee. Or I guess you call it a Van Dyke because it doesn't join at the sides. Learned that from Ted Lasso. The final team to close out my Eastern Conference predictions for the NHL preview is Washington. And this one's a kind of a little caveat because my player who's going to be up is Ovechkin. He's the Russian machine. He will not break. He's chasing Gretzky's goal. He's chasing Gretzky's goal record. He needs 71 because he scored. He scored tonight. So he has, oh man, if I can look. Anyways, he has 71 games to catch him. So I just got to find out how many games Ovechkin has played because in the offseason he had 140 games to catch Gretzky's record, and that would have been faster than Gretzky did it. But I've been told when I pointed that out to hockey nerds that that's not something that matters that much. To me, I don't know, it's kind of weird because it's kind of a big deal to do it. I mean, it's a big deal to break a Gretzky record. I mean, they're not all cast in stone, but it's Gretzky. They're his records. Okay, he's played 5 games, Ovechkin, and he has 1 goal. So that means he has 135 games left to score 71 goals to tie Gretzky's record in the same amount of time that Gretzky did it. Now, do I realistically believe he will beat Gretzky's record? I feel like he can get 71 more goals in a season and a half. I think all he's going to do, and especially now that he's broken the seal, like the first 4 games, he didn't score a goal. And everybody was like, oh my God, is Ovechkin done? Is he going to chase this record? But I feel like now that he got his slump buster goal, he's going to score a lot of goals. I feel like he's going to do it by next season. I feel like he'll get 40 this year and 33 next year, and he will beat the record by 1. And then you know what? Dirty secret. Maybe he retires. That would be ridiculous. And then down for the Washington Capitals, this is the caveat. I think it's going to be Ovechkin. Not because he's not going to score less goals or anything, but I feel like he's going to be chasing the Gretzky goal record so hard that he's not going to be getting any assist. So like I said, he's going to get 40 goals, but he's going to get maybe 10 assists. So he's going to go down to 50 points. And the biggest acquisition in the offseason for the Washington Capitals was Pacioretty. Over the last 4 seasons, he's been roughly a point a game, but last year he fucking blew out, was it his Achilles in the preseason? Anyways, he only ended up playing 5 games for the Hurricanes. Was it? It might have been in practice or something. I think he stepped on a stick, which is a terrible way to injure yourself. Like, if you get smoked into the boards and then you get injured, that's a good injury and you feel no guilt. But it's like, if you step on a stick and your leg goes, so your foot goes like this and it stretches out your Achilles, and then you go to push off, then you just rip the shit out of it. Because maybe Pacioretty has bird bones. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't snap again. I hope he does good. I want to see this guy do good. I want to see every player in the NHL do good, except for Matthews and McKinnon, because I want McDavid to win the Hart. Actually, McDavid is injured this year, and last time McDavid was injured, my favorite player in the entire NHL won the Hart. So if this year, if McDavid is injured for any amount of time, does Draisaitl step into the spotlight? Does Draisaitl become the best hockey player in the league? He's not going to be the best hockey player in the. I guess he would have to be the best hockey player. No, because I guess the Hart is just the person who is the most valuable to the team they play on. I guess that's a nice way of just saying that they don't have to give it to the same guy every year. I guess the Maurice Richard or I can't remember which one it is for the most part. Anyways, does Draisaitl become the Hart winner if McDavid is injured? That's not a preview. I didn't say anything about this when I did my Western Conference because McDavid wasn't injured at that point. But you know what? I like to live wild and I like to make big dumb predictions, and because that way if they come true I look like Nostradamus, and if they come false I'll just be like, it was a ridiculous prediction. Did you ever think it was going to come true? You know what? Let's just say it. McDavid is injured long term, terrible. Oilers still make it to the playoffs. McDavid comes back near the end of the season and they win the cup and Draisaitl gets the Hart. That would be little inner child Dale hockey fan wet dream. Is Draisaitl wins the Hart again and the Oilers win the cup. Oh boy, could you imagine? Could you imagine the Oilers winning the cup and just telling, and us Oilers fans just getting to tell every single hater out there, be like, the Oilers did it without McDavid. You know, because every hater of the Oilers is constantly saying, oh, all you got's McDavid. And then they had to be like, oh, all you got's McDavid and Draisaitl. And then they're like, oh, all you got's McDavid and Draisaitl. And last year, some of the players did good, but you didn't win the cup. So if we win the cup, because I'm involved in this, sorry, Oilers, I'm emotionally attaching myself to your team. Please don't let me down. You've lost 4 games this season. You're 1-3-1, I think. Yeah, I should know this since I'm such an Oilers fan. They were winning when I turned the game off. They were winning against Minnesota 3-2 when I turned it off to record this. I'm going to turn this off once I'm done recording, and then I'm going to go back to the game, and hopefully little Dale's little boy dreams will come true. So that's my NHL predictions for the year. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I should do more sports. I feel kind of guilty talking about sports because I don't know a lot about sports, like, as you could see. But, I mean, everybody who talks about sports is just some person talking about sports. I could be some person talking about sports. So let me know if you want me to talk about sports some more, or if you want me to go back to conspiracy podcasts. Did I talk? I don't know if yesterday when I was recording, I said I was going to try do an episode on the moon being a spaceship for aliens. That sounds bonkers awesome, but I don't know if I said that in the first half that I recorded, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. And if I said it in the second half that got corrupted and didn't work out, then maybe that's a good teaser for you. So the Dale Show, the next episode, I don't know when this will come out because I have to do research, and doing research with a 6-month-old child is pretty tough because I have to spend a lot of my time taking care of my child. And that's my excuse. It's not because I'm watching TV or playing video games and ignoring doing research because I'm tired from work, and doing research sometimes feels like homework. But that's also why I want to do the moon, because when I'm doing stuff, like I was thinking about doing the Maui fires, and I started researching it, and it was just a drag because it's too real, it's too negative and dark. And then it just feels like homework and you got to force yourself through. But if I'm talking about like David Icke talking about the moon being like a satellite for the reptilian people and keeping us in a bad mood, oh, that's good stuff. That doesn't feel like work at all. If you podcast about stuff you love, you'll never work at a podcast again in a day in your life, which is good because I definitely am not getting paid enough from this to be work. Oh, and on that note, please check out my Patreon, the Dale Show. I think. Yeah, let me Google that because it's been so long since I went there. Patreon. I don't know if it's just my name or if it is the show. Let's see. The Dale Show. The Dale Show. Nope. Let's see if it's Dale DeRuiter. Dale DeRuiter. Nope. Oh, maybe I'm not on here. Huh. That sucks. Maybe my Patreon got frozen out. Yeah, looking through. Oh, yeah, the Dale Show. There we go. 0 posts. Creating podcasts. Oh, maybe I should put posts. My banner is butts. Oh, yeah. So if you sign up on Patreon, the lowest is $4 a month. That gets you early access to episodes. I don't really do anything about that because I don't have a single Patreon. Hey, be my first Patreon sign up, and you'll be my best friend forever. If you sign up for the All Access Patreon, which is $8 a month, you get logos and skulls, baby. So you get stickers, there's bonus episodes, and you get early access to episodes. And then the VIP Patreon, I think you get a hoodie if you do that one. That one's nuts. But anyways, yeah. Go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/thedaleshow. Join up. Help me get paid. And then, if you want me to talk about... And also, let me know. Because one of the reasons I started the Dale Show is because I'm pretty into conspiracies. And I keep running into conspiracies I don't really know much about. And then I'm like, there should be a spot for people to have I want this to be like a dip your toe in conspiracy level, because I don't want you to have your black belt in conspiracy just to understand what I'm talking about. So I try to come at things as an introductory. I mean, if I'm anybody's red pill daddy, that would make me so happy to know that I opened the view of the world to somebody. And if you're only here because you like hockey, sorry that it took a weird esoteric turn at the end there. But yeah, if you want me to talk more about sports, let me know. Jeff, who is usually my co-host, he knows a bunch about sports. He played hockey for a long time. He raced rally cars. He fucking rides a motorbike. He's such more of a man than me. Yeah, if you want me to talk about sports, if you want me to stop saying, do you talk about sports, I will. If you want me to talk about conspiracies, I'm already going to do that, but let me know. Also, give me feedback. Tell me what you think. The only feedback I can remember getting recently was some lady said that my voice was horrible and she can't listen to it. And I was like, that seems a bit aggressive. And if you can't listen to my voice, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast because this podcast is just my voice. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there because I'm rambling at this point, and it feels like I haven't recorded that long because I'm only doing the second half. But when I add this, oh man, I'm at 30 minutes. So when I add this 30 minutes to the other 37 minutes, this is going to be a long episode. All right, I'm just going to end it there. So yeah, thanks for coming by. I'll see you next time.